Let me begin with the opening statement. The Commission is composed of Peoria citizens who have been appointed by the City Council to serve on the Commission as a civic responsibility without compensation. Our duty is to study and review planning and zoning issues within the City of Peoria, and then forward our recommendations to the City Council. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules and procedures and Robert's Rules of Order. Each case will be called in order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. In the interest of maintaining a fair and efficient hearing, the Commission adheres to the following steps. The Chairman calls the case, a staff gives a brief report and recommendation, applicant gives a presentation, opposition and support gives testimony, generally limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Applicant may give a rebuttal, and Commission discussion and decisions. Anyone wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant on my far left. Please be as brief as possible and do not repeat statements already made by others. Anyone wishing to protest the decision of the Commission public hearing must request a second public hearing before the City Council. The request must be submitted in writing to the Planning and Community Development Department within 10 days after the Commission's hearing. All Commission's recommendations or public hearing items move forward to the regular City Council meeting. The City Council will then act on the recommendation of the Commission. They may concur with the decision, modify it, or overturn it. We welcome citizens' comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we want to thank you in advance for your participation. So this is the last call to submit speakers' request forms. So if you haven't done so, please see the assistant. Tonight, the next order of business is the consent agenda. These are items that are routine in nature, and they consist of 4 items tonight. The first item is the disposition of absences. Discussion and possible action to approve and excuse the absences of Commissioners Hutchinson and Moore from the November 21st, 2013 meeting. 2C are the minutes. Discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on November 21st, 2013. 3C, CU 13-0010. Every doggy has its daycare. It's a request for a conditional use permit to allow Every Doggy Has Its Daycare, a boarding and training facility, to operate at the New River Commerce Center, an existing business and industrial center. It's located at 19205 and 19209 North 83rd Avenue. And the last one is 4C, which is CU 13-0011, the Westbrook Animal Hospital. And it's a request for a conditional use permit to allow for Westbrook Animal Hospital, a veterinary hospital, use to operate at an existing commercial shopping center. The property is located at 9163 West Union Hills Drive. Any discussion on these issues? Then could I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Second?
Madam Chair, I second.
Thank you. And any other further discussion? Then would you please vote? Thank you. Then it passes. Anyone here for the consent agenda items are certainly welcome to leave. Thank you. Okay. Then the next order of business is 5R, public hearing. And there are 3, this is correct, there are 3 items tonight for the public hearing. We're going to hear a staff report on all 3, and then we'll vote individually on each on each item. Okay. The first one will be to rezone the. Pardon me. I'm sorry. The first item is 5R, Z 130009. a city initiative initial zoning request for approximately 1.7 acres of privately owned property following a recent annexation application on the site. The property is located south of Pinnacle Peak Road alignment on the 75th Avenue alignment and is more accurately described as APN 200-07-008N. Do I need to read all three?
Madam Chair, you can just announce all three, the public hearing for the rezone and the general plan amendment and the rezone for Riverwalk. So they'd be items 5R, 6R, and 7R. And then, but you would take separate motions for each following the staff report and the public comment. But the public comment and staff report can be at the same time, since it's all regarding the same matter. It will just require separate motions.
Okay, so do you want me to read then for the record all three?
You can just read the numbers related to each and the general description of each.
Okay. Or 5 then, the general plan amendment, River Rock, GPA 12-0001. That's to modify the general use plan for 39 acres. And public hearing, and 7R public hearing, rezone Riverwalk Z12-0001, which is a request to rezone approximately 68-5 acres of single-family residential and suburban ranch to a planned area development to allow for the development of 122 single-family homes. Could I have a report from staff?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. As you mentioned, we have 3 items tonight that are all related, involving the proposed Riverwalk development, located generally at the 77th Avenue and Pinnacle Peak Road intersection. Portions of the project are north and south of Pinnacle Peak Road alignment. We do have several different project boundaries, so you'll see a few different maps here tonight, all focusing on the area in question, the PAD, or Planned Area Development rezoning, covering a larger area, the general plan amendment covering approximately slightly more than half of that area, and then the initial zoning, which covers just a small 1.17 acre sliver. So to begin with, the map that you see here is for the Planned Area Development rezoning for the Riverwalk PAD. That covers approximately 68.5 acres. As you can see, it's located both north and south of Pinnacle Peak Road, and it would allow for up to 122 single-family residential lots. The general plan amendment proposed covers the area south of the Pinnacle Peak Road alignment between 75th Avenue alignment and 77th Avenue alignment, so it's the approximately 40-acre site that you see here. That would change the general plan for this area from residential estate, which has a range of 0 to 2 dwelling units per acre with a target of 1 dwelling unit, to the residential low category, which has a range of 2 to 5 dwelling units per acre and a target of 3. The initial zoning then has a much smaller footprint, as you can see. It's just this very tiny sliver here. This is to provide initial zoning per state statute for a small area that is being annexed. This would generally have been the 75th Avenue right-of-way. However, in this area with the river, there is not a road to be constructed, and therefore the area was simply never annexed into the city. That annexation will be carrying forward to City Council, and this initial zoning will, upon your recommendation, also go to Council for decision. The existing zoning of that sliver is the Maricopa County Rural 43 District, and the city is required to provide comparable zoning within 6 months of annexation. Our most comparable district is the Suburban Ranch 43, which is a 1-acre lot, and that is what we're proposing for the initial zoning here tonight. The PAD covers this area, so with your affirmative recommendation, the initial zoning may not last for very long. We would expect that that larger area that encompasses the planned area development would overtake this initial zoning upon your recommendation of approval. This map here provides all of those three boundaries overlaid. The black outlined area that you see here, that's larger than all three cases here tonight, is actually the development boundary proposed by the developer. This would include the area of the planned area development, the area of the general plan amendment, the area of the initial zoning, and additional acreage that would be developed under the existing zoning of the site. That would be handled administratively through the preliminary plat and other development processes. As I mentioned with the initial zoning request, this is a bit of a close-up so you can see the 1.1 acre sliver that would have originally been right-of-way. It's just a very small piece that would need to be incorporated into the city so that we could allow development there and that the development would occur under our development standards. This area in the planned area development is proposed in the conceptual plan for a trail, part of the regional trail, and would accommodate uses that are in our trail plan. The general plan amendment, as you can see here, the current general plan for the entire site, both the entire planned area development site, is currently residential estate. The applicant is requesting a general plan amendment only for the southern portion of the site south of Pinnacle Peak. That would allow a change to residential low, as I mentioned earlier, 2 to 5 dwelling units per acre with a target of 3 dwelling units. This would accommodate the conceptual development plan of the planned area development, which has a higher density on the southern portion of the site than the north. The plan as proposed would not require an amendment to the general plan on the north half of the site. It would be developed under the existing residential estate designation. As you can see on the map to your right, to the south of the proposed general plan amendment, we do have an ongoing application for an amendment to the general plan for Hidden Paradise Estates. The proposed development would also be requesting a change in the general plan to residential low. So this is a case that's currently in process and it is underway. It's not ready to go before you at this point, but we do want to make you aware that there are other development applications in this vicinity that could change the land use character in that area. For the planned area development rezoning application, as noted, this is the 68.5 acre site with a slightly irregular border on the northern portion of the property. I'll get into the reason for that a little bit in a few moments. As mentioned, the request would allow for up to 122 single-family residential lots. And this conceptual development plan gives you a little bit better idea of what the applicant is proposing in terms of the layout of those lots and some of the amenities on the site. The overall density is 1.78 dwelling units per acre. However, there's a significant difference in the density of the northern half of the project versus the southern half. As you can see, north of Pinnacle Peak, the lots are considerably larger, over 18,000 square feet, as opposed to the two development areas on the south, which are 8,000 square foot minimum and 10,000 square foot minimum. This diversity of lot sizes allows and accommodates both a variety of housing options with the city, which is in concurrence with the city's general plan, and also it may allow the development of this area quicker so that construction for the residents that are existing could take place on a shorter time frame. Some of the key highlights of this plan, as mentioned, there is a large area of natural open space that will be maintained, so it will remain in its current form. That is the approximately 10.8 acres. There's also a number of trails, both the regional trail that's on the eastern edge of the site, as well as internal connecting trails that will allow both residents to access the regional trail and provide amenities for those residents to go throughout the community. As part of the rezoning process, there was city notification of residents in the area, both a notice of application and the notice of hearing, that went to property owners within approximately a quarter mile of the site, as well as HOAs within a mile radius. The applicant actually held 2 neighborhood meetings. One neighborhood meeting is required by the general plan and the rezoning application. They held 2 meetings. At those meetings, there were a number of property owners who attended. The follow-up meeting had a larger turnout. However, many of those individuals actually came from a very large vicinity. Many of them were over a mile away in terms of where their property ownership is in relation to the site in question. So they weren't necessarily immediate neighbors to the property. In addition, the applicant has recently provided a letter of notification to the same individuals, giving them an update of the plan. There have been several changes to the plan over the course of this case since 2012, and they wanted to ensure that everyone was aware of the latest design, which has improvements that are intended to increase the compatibility of the site and deal with some of the concerns that were brought up by residents in the earlier meetings. In terms of citizen input, we have received several calls and inquiries regarding the details of the project proposal, as well as 2 letters of opposition, which are included in your packet. Those letters were received several months ago, and we have not received an update in terms of whether their opposition still stands, but that is the correspondence we've received. In terms of neighborhood compatibility, some of the aspects that have been changed on the plan to ensure a good fit with the neighborhood involve the buffer that you see to the north. As I mentioned, there's an irregular boundary there that was actually developed by or included by the developer to accommodate some of those concerns of the existing residents located along 77th Avenue where there's existing homes. This area that is shown as the buffer will remain in its current zoning of R135. That zoning designation allows for 35,000 square foot minimum lot sizes, and the developer does intend to develop that portion of the site as well under that current zoning. This would allow considerably larger lots than the planned area development and will ensure the maximum compatibility. As you can see on the right, the large lots that are located in this vicinity would be in that R135 zoning district. In addition, the river corridor that's on the east of the site provides a large buffer from the residents to the east in Glendale. At its minimum, between the property boundaries, there's a minimum of 230 feet. So that considerable distance will provide both the open space as well as avoid any concerns with views or impingements on privacy. The transitional lot sizes of the Riverwalk development, as mentioned, provide a variety of options, housing options for potential residents, and also add diversity to the neighborhood. One of the changes to the plan over the course of this application was a reduction in the number of lots from 133 to the 122 as it currently stands, a maximum of 122. In addition, as mentioned, the buffer on the north and west sides of the property was added to increase the compatibility. And as noted, the proposed plat, while it includes areas not within the planned area development, would be developed through the city's preliminary plat and final platting process outside of this case. Some of the neighborhood character elements that have been added to the plan to ensure a high-quality standard are the inclusion of character feature walls at the entrance to the community. And as you can see on the right-hand side, the kind of focused entrance along Pinnacle Peak Road. You can see, I'm not sure if you can see, there's the kind of an aerial view of those proposed walls, creating a very nice entry feature into the community. As a result, the key findings of staff for these 3 cases are that, in general, these changes would provide a more compatible land use change and would allow for a transition between some of the existing larger lot residences and residential uses as we head south to the existing denser residence. So this is really a transition between large lot residential and some of the existing communities to the south. As a result, staff recommends for these 3 cases approval of all cases to City Council with the approval of case Z13-0009 subject to the conditions as stated in the staff report. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions? Thank you. Then I'd like to open the public hearing. Is the applicant present? Could you speak, tell us your name and your address?
Yes, ma'am. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. I'm here representing the applicant. I can, if you want, give a full presentation, or I can sit down, and that you just you have 3 very detailed staff reports, and you just received a very detailed verbal presentation, and I agree with every word of it. We appreciate staff's recommendations for approval. We accept the staff recommended conditions in the rezoning case. We would ask that your commission recommend approval of each of the 3 cases accordingly. I do not know if you have cards or not, so I don't know if I should make a presentation or simply reserve the remainder of time for rebuttal. But I defer to you to tell me to either fill in gaps or sit down. I'm happy to do either.
Okay. Do the commissioners want a presentation or just open it up for questions? It looks like we'll just open it up for questions.
Clients here, so you can bill.
So are there questions for the applicant? Any questions?
All right.
I just had one question.
Yes, ma'am.
After you heard after you went to the public hearings,
Yes.
I mean the public meetings, did you make any changes in your plans?
Yes. I know that this is low technology and we could queue up the PowerPoint and so on, but this is the overall 80 acres that Melissa was talking about. The yellow identifies the area that was already mass graded by a prior developer before that proposed development failed. So we'd always talked about preserving this non-graded area and transitioning from south to north, which we continued to do. At the first neighborhood meeting, we had not anticipated extending 77th Avenue further to the south. We were in discussions with staff about that, and it became clear that we did need to extend it to the south, so that change was made between the first and second neighborhood meetings. That wasn't particularly popular with some of our neighbors, but it was made clear to us by engineering and other staff that that roadway extension needed to be made to help continue the future grid work of the streets in this area. Probably more importantly, in the context of neighborhood compatibility, and I could bring up an aerial that shows the addresses of the attendees at the second neighborhood meeting, but as Melissa indicated, we had representatives from immediately to the north, immediately to the south, up here to the west, and then upwards of a mile or so away. Part of what became clear is that to the south, we had support because we were transitioning from south to north and so on. We, further to the north, though, had some concerns with density and lot size. So one of the major changes that was made, as was depicted on some of the exhibits that Melissa had on your screen a few minutes ago, was to draw a line across here so that north of that line, we're not requesting the rezoning. We're maintaining the RE35 zoning that's up here. This will still be open space. There'll still be a trail coming through here where the city's indicated it's to go, but there'd be only 6 approximately acre lots located along this part of the 77th Avenue frontage. That's what we explained in the third neighborhood letter that went out. There are other little subtleties here and there about trail location and open space details and those kinds of things. And I can go into some of those details if you want, but I assure you that my client, his engineering team and others and I listened. We couldn't make everybody happy on every issue perhaps, but we listened. And we also did additional homework outside of the plan having to do with schools and traffic and other kinds of things which are detailed in Melissa's report that either she or we could get into if you wanted. But we did our best to listen and be good neighbors.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I have no speakers' request forms, and I will close the public hearing. Commissioners have any comments or questions? Then we'll take one motion at a time, and could I have a motion on R5? 5R, I'm sorry. Madam Chair? Yes.
Madam Chair, I would move that we send a favorable recommendation for Z 13-009, which is the initial zoning, subject to the stipulations in the staff report. If I got it in the right order? Initial zoning first.
Is that right? Okay. And could I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, we'll vote. Please vote. Okay, that passes. Thank you. The next motion, please.
Madam Chair, I would move that we send a favorable recommendation for GPA 12-0001 to the City Council.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. If there are any other comments, then please vote. That also passes. Thank you. For the third?
Madam Chair,
Oh, yes.
I move that we send a favorable recommendation to City Council for Z 12-001.
Commissioner Strickland, it's 0001.
Oh, I'm sorry. I left out a 0. 0001.
Thank you. And could I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. If there's no other discussion, please vote. Thank you, and that passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to 8R, public hearing, the rezone Sierra Ridge, initial zoning. That's Z13-0012, a request for initial zoning for approximately 17.5 acres from Maricopa County Rural 43 to a suburban ranch to allow for the development of approximately 24 single-family homes. The property is located on the corner of 107th Avenue and Pinnacle Peak Road. And could I please have the staff report?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner members. As with the previous case, this presentation tonight involves two cases. So if it please the Chair, I will make one presentation with two separate motions at the end. The first portion of this is with regards to initial zoning for an annexation that's presently proceeding through the city of Peoria now. It is located at the northeast corner of 107th Avenue and Pinnacle Peak and encompasses a total of 32.7 acres. We are establishing the initial zoning for this property tonight from Maricopa County Rural 43 to SR Suburban Ranch 43. Now, taking a closer look at it, this 32 acres is comprised of portions of 107th Avenue, both north and south of Pinnacle Peak Road, an SRP easement located here, 4 DR Horton parcels, as well as 5 county residents that are included in the annexation itself. The first public hearing for this annexation was held on September 17th of 2013. As recently as this week's, the signed petitions have been filed with the county recorder and the city clerk, and it is anticipated that the adoption hearing will be conducted on the 21st of January of 2014. The second item before you this evening is the rezone from Suburban Ranch 43 to planned area development for development known as Sierra Ridge Estates, located on the northeast corner of Pinnacle Peak Road and 107th Avenue. As you can see, again, we're asking for rezone from Suburban Ranch 43 to planned area development to allow for a residential subdivision up to 24 homes. This slide illustrates the general plan land use map as well as the existing zoning around the proposed development. As you can see on the land use map here, we have park and open space, which is also the Hooten Quarry Mine. To the far south, it's residential low with a target of 2 to 5 dwelling units with a target of 3. Just south of the development, north and east, the general plan land use map indicates residential estate with a 0 to 2 dwelling units per acre with a target of 1. If we move to the right in the zoning map, you can see that immediately south of the development, it's zone C2. In R118, this is the Grace Community Church located here. R18 zoning to the south, SR35 to the east, and Maricopa County residents on the east and the north of the development. Again, the Hooten Quarry Mound is located to the west of the proposed development. Conceptually, as I stated, they're provided for 24 single-family detached lots, which gives it a proposed density of 1.3 dwelling units per acre. Minimum lot size for this development is projected at 18,000 minimum square foot, and the development standards most closely resemble the R118 standards. Having said that, I can tell you that based on the preliminary plat that's before us now, the lots are actually developing at about 18,500 square foot. This development would be responsible for its half-street improvements along Pinnacle Peak Road, 55 foot, as well as 25-foot half-street improvements along Camino del Oro to the north. The Sierra Ridge Estates is proposing a total open space of 3.6 acres, or roughly 21.8%. 1.25 acres of those, or roughly 7%, are usable open space, with 15% being reserved for natural open space. Madam Chair, there were 3 citizen review meetings held for this request. The first one being in September of 2012, and I would characterize that as a fact-finding meeting. And I say that because we didn't have an official submittal at that point, so it wouldn't fall under the guidelines of that request. The initial submittal was presented to the city in January, and a citizen review meeting was held shortly thereafter in January of 2013, with another being held in May of 2013. There was considerable turnout, a strong turnout of county residents and locals for each of the 3 meetings. As I've noted on the slide before you, lot size, the density that was originally proposed, which the nonconformance with the general plan, which as initially submitted was not in conformance and not staff supported, circulation within the area, devaluation of property lines, and their impact on their rural lifestyle. What you see before you right now is the conceptual lotting plan that was presented in January, and as you can see, there are 35 lots proposed on that. And the density, which created a much higher density and quite frankly was not in conformance with the land use pattern that is stated in the general plan. Having had this meeting and the applicant addressed some of the concerns that they had, more specifically the transitional area between the higher densities to the south and the 1 acre developments to the north, and reduce the density of the project. However, one of the other main issues and generally large concerns of the citizens that were participating in the meeting was the ability for cut-through traffic and through from 107th Avenue through Pinnacle Peak Road up through to Camino del Oro and then back to Lake Pleasant Parkway. Having said that, the applicant revised their application, came back to the meeting in May of 2013, and presented a revised conceptual lot plan to the applicants, or I'm sorry, to the neighbors. Again, I would characterize it as a very strong turnout towards to the meeting. I would also characterize it and say that there was some expressed, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry? Yeah, there was still obviously concern for the circulation of the development. However, I will say that there seemed to garner some support for the increase in lot size and a reduction in density of the area. And that's currently what you see before you tonight is the 24 single-family lots with the proposed density of 1.3, the larger lots and the open space. Staff finds that this request is consistent with the general planned land use designation and that it is compatible with surrounding developments. Additionally, we believe that it will provide a transitional area between the commercial zoning to the south and the non-residential use to church and the large 1-acre lots to the north. With that, we recommend approval of case Z13-0012 to the City Council, subject to the conditions contained within your staff report. And we also recommend approval of Z13-001 to the City Council, subject to the conditions contained in your staff report. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. Are there questions from the commissioners? Okay, fine, thank you. Then I'd like to open the public hearing. Is the applicant ready to speak? Thank you. And could you please state your name?
Yes,
and
thank
your
you.
Address?
My name is Shelby Duplessis. I'm with Bowman Consulting, and I'm representing D.R. Horton as the applicant. My address is 14100 North 83rd Avenue, Peoria, Arizona 85381. Thank you so much for having me here tonight or listening to our case. I think that everything was covered very well by staff in the reports. I think we just want to reiterate where we started with this project and how far we've come. It's been a lengthy time. We started in September of 2012, and an official application wasn't made until January so that we could work through both public participation and staff going back and forth with the options and what was intended for the parcel and what would work best for the parcel. We had originally started with 50 lots. By the official submittal in January, we had lowered that number down to 35 lots. With that, we also worked with staff to look at what the best transition was from all sides of the property. We minimized the number of lots siding to the east up against the existing county residents, trying to limit some of that encroachment there. We also preserved as much natural open space on the site that we could on the west end as a transition from the power line corridor, and then worked with engineering on the future improvements of Pinnacle Peak Road to ensure that our development complemented that and that we were working with what would ultimately be there in the future for a better transition to try to salvage as much of that improvement as possible. Since then, as staff has reported, we have had 2 other public participation meetings. That February 11th meeting, when we had the 35 lots, we listened to the concerns. We met with our staff again, and then internally, and then came back with the 24-lot layout. And in that layout that we have proposed, a great length of collaborative work with both staff and engineering and planning resulted, as well as the neighbors result to the north, resulted in the layout that you see tonight. It helps to mitigate the cut-through traffic in front of the existing homes on the north side of Camino de Oro. Our goal there, because of the grade change from the east down to this site, there's a significant drop. It's just a natural drop of 10 to 15 feet that we're trying to catch grade, and that's where we ended up with the north-south alignment to try to minimize the amount of traffic going along the cul-de-sac further to the west in front of those existing homes. Another change that we had to this layout was actually trying to maintain more of the rural feel in this area by fronting our lots onto Camino de Oro, so that the existing lot owners to the north would actually not be looking at the back of a home, but actually have neighbors that they're facing. We worked with the existing neighbors to the north as they wanted to also be annexed into the city of Peoria. We've worked with them on what that Camino de Oro roadway section would look like, and worked together to try to make that best fit with what they have today versus what would work for both developments, as they're all going to be neighbors, and I just wanted to try to better improve that area. I can't think of anything else. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. The commissioners have any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I do have a few public request forms, speaker request forms, and the first speaker is, yes, Mr. Rios. Could you state your name for the record and your address? I'd appreciate it.
Sure. My name is Ezekiel Rios. I live at 23612 North 105th Lane, Peoria, Arizona 85383. And basically, I'm here in support of this development, and more specifically, the rezoning for the purpose of this meeting. Working with the developer and the consultant for the developer, it's been a pretty easy process for myself. They've addressed all my concerns related to the Camino de Oro street. I'm one of the property owners that's going to be annexed into the city of Peoria, and having this road here paved is going to alleviate a lot of the cut-through traffic that we have now and a lot of the dust that we have to deal with. And so I'm in favor of it, and that's basically what I wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker request form I have is from Vince Wells. And did you want to speak? Yes. Yes, okay, thank you. When you come down, could you please speak, state your name and your address? Oh, I'm sorry, I should have said this before anyone started speaking. You're limited to 3 minutes, and please don't repeat what other people have said.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. My name is Vince Wells. I'm at 10505 West Avenida del Sol. And what I would like you to consider, given the plan that we have here today, I'm not opposed to the development itself. What I'm opposed to is the lack of investigation that needs to be done to the surrounding streets before this is approved. The surrounding streets, which would have to vent some of the additional traffic coming in and out of this development, go through unimproved, unmaintained roads. As for myself, living within less than half a mile of this development, myself and the 4 neighbors surrounding my area have already paid out of pocket about $5,000 apiece this year to try and maintain our road, with yet another $500 apiece coming out of my pocket next Tuesday to bring in about 30 tons of material to backfill the holes in the road from the recent rains. This is going to be worse with the development as it stands. I'd like to see the council recommend a focus group to investigate the traffic and the additional deterioration that will be imposed on the surrounding roads before they approve this. My wife has had 2 spinal fusions. I've gone through several $1,000s worth of maintenance to my vehicle this year just because of the deteriorating road, and we cannot handle any additional traffic. I cannot handle any additional medical bills because it's an unmaintained road. So if the additional traffic is going to be there, something needs to be done for the surrounding citizens. I would even be willing to be part of that focus group. If you'd like to invite some of the citizens that live in that area, I'm sure you'd have plenty of volunteers. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. I appreciate it. The next speaker request form I have is James Decker. Mr. Decker, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is James Decker. I'm at 10415 West Camino de Oro Road, Peoria, Arizona 85383. As a real estate broker, I'm kind of conflicted here as a homeowner and a real estate broker on both sides of this issue. I understand the need for development, and that's great. I am directly in the path of what the previous speaker's talking about. I live just up the hill from this development on Camino de Oro. We will be directly affected by the traffic coming in and out of this development because there's a Circle K at Lake Pleasant Parkway and Pinnacle Peak. We've come out of pocket a few $1,000s ourselves to put down crushed asphalt on our road as it is, just to try and minimize the dust. When we moved out there, we understand there's dust. It's just what we live with. But an additional 24 homes probably means an additional minimum 50 cars plus the people that visit them in and out, not to mention the construction traffic. I guess that's, the previous gentleman had it right. A focus group would probably be a great idea just to see what we can do to make everyone happy in this situation, to try to, to allow progress to go forward with some kind of development. That's just fine, but let's do it the smart way and figure out how to fix these roads or do something to where it minimizes the dust and the congestion for the community. Basically, that's it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The next speaker request form is from Guy Culp. And Mr. Culp, if you'll state your name and your address.
My name is Guy Culp, 10449 West Pinnacle Peak Road. As one of the only residents that are actively in the city of Peoria, paid Peoria taxes, it was misstated. The property to the south, the development to the south, is not what you would consider the 1 or 2 dwellings per acre. There was actually 12 to 15 years ago with Continental Homes, they had to do a buffer transition. They went from 5,000 to 8,000 to 18,000 to half-acre lots buffering up our south border. So that's not true residential. Over 15 years ago, my wife sat on this council for 7 years, and it was agreed and planned back then to keep the area from that area, the Continental Homes to the north, the 1-acre SR35, SR43 lots. In the construction business, I currently, about once a year, rent a blade on my own, $2,500 for a weekend, and I've bladed that road once a week to keep up with it for the neighbors and myself. The extra traffic, but the extra homes have been built over the years. I've been out there 18 years. I was the only house. More and more of the 1-acre lots have been built. It's been more of a challenge to maintain that out of my own pocket. Their plan to put people to the east on Camino de Oro, they plan on paving in front of the gentleman's home, but that only cures his home. Going farther to the east and going back towards Lake Pleasant Road, it would definitely impact the PM10 code. It will not handle the traffic as previously stated. I think we need to look. Also, if we consider that Continental did a transition in a buffer area from half-acre to 1-acre lots into the rural lifestyle, these do not have a transition on these lots or a buffer on these lots getting larger to the north or to the east to the people that currently have that suburban lifestyle. They're all equal, pretty much equal size, and there's no buffer or transition being done. That's all I had to say.
Fine, thank you, Mr. Culp. I appreciate it. The next speaker is Garrett DJ, and you did want to speak, is that correct? Sure. Okay. You didn't want to speak. Okay, and can I have your name and your address, please?
Yeah, so my name is Garrett DeJoy. My address is 10434 West Pinnacle Peak Road, Peoria, Arizona, 85383. So, yeah, not to repeat everything, but I would like to echo the sentiment. I don't think there's any question that Camino de Oro to the east is dirt, and it's leading in through all of our neighborhoods and all of our roads that are dirt. It's going to substantially impact the traffic and the dust problem. And I love, the picture that we're seeing now, because I've been hearing that, well, the surrounding areas, it kind of fits. But if you look south, you'll see that there's high-density housing. But if you look to the west, if you look to the north, and if we zoomed out, you'd continue to see that there is no more high-density housing. The reason we all moved out there was for a certain type of lifestyle, a rural lifestyle. And I do take issue with the size of the lots that are going in there. We all moved in for 1+ acre rural-type lots. And like we just heard from the previous gentleman, there's no buffer being built in. There's no transition area. So I guess I'm opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now close the public hearing. Any commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Loper.
Madam Chair, this may be a question for staff. So the graphic that you have up on the screen, the brown line represents city limits? So everything to the south is in the city limits?
That is correct,
essentially.
sir.
And everything in the north is in the county?
Correct.
And then could you go back to the graphic that shows the development plan and talk a little bit about access to this particular site? What is their main way of access?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Loper, as we'd indicated before, 107th Avenue is the western boundary there. Primary access will be off of 107th Avenue, east on Pinnacle Peak Road and into the development. Currently, and I've lost my pointer mouse there, Pinnacle Peak will dead end at the eastern border of this development. It will be improved in front of it, but that's basically where it's going to stop. Now, there will be access via Camino del Oro, and if I may go back to this one, they would proceed, it's possible that they would proceed east on Camino del Oro, come around here, down to Pinnacle Peak, and out to Lake Pleasant Parkway.
I'm off. Here. Thank you. But the main point of access is off 107th Avenue. That's how it's designed. And going back to the applicant's statement, had they, and they could have internalized access, and so they wouldn't have had access to Camino de Oro. They may or may not would have had to have done half-street improvements, but they kind of, the old axiom, no good deed goes unpunished. They chose to face the homes in an effort to be more community-oriented. In doing that, that's brought about really that access on Camino de Oro. Am I correct?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Loper, yes and no. Yes, to the point that the homes will front onto that, and that was a conscious decision to keep the openness feel of it and preserve that large lot feel to it through that transition area. But furthermore, Camino del Oro was necessary to provide circulation through the development and 2 points of access through that development. By shutting that off or walling it off or gating it off, it basically shut off circulation to Camino del Oro and the residents that are north of that. Furthermore, the county residents that are annexing in and others as well will be able to access Pinnacle Peak Road and 107th Avenue through that development. So it's not going to service, although the improvement may end at the eastern border of that development, it will provide access to 107th and Pinnacle Peak for other residents as well.
Absolutely. So people coming from the east and the north, as you said, will now have paved access directly to 107th Avenue. Because I've driven that in my Jeep today at Pinnacle Peak as it works, and yeah, it's not very pretty in that area. But going back to the gentleman who mentioned about a focus group, which I think is an outstanding idea, but I think it's for a forum outside of this zoning case arena, personally. But I mean, that's going to involve McDOT, because those are county roadways, and the city of Peoria it's a grander discussion than just something that you would attach to 24 homes, or even if it was acre lots, it'd be 17 homes. To me, it seems like it's something that's a much larger issue, certainly needed in this area. I personally don't think it should be attached to this particular zoning case, but just wanted to bring that up to the residents. That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. If there are no other questions, then could I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would move that we forward a favorable recommendation to the City Council for the initial zoning under Z 13-0012.
Thank you. And could I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any other further discussion? Then would you please vote? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. And then, yes, oops, I've lost track. We need one other. Okay, so there's one other motion. Thank you. Commissioner Loper.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would move that we forward a favorable recommendation for Z 13-0001 to the City Council, subject to the stipulations outlined in the staff report.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. If there are any further discussion, then please vote. That also passes. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda, as I said before, 10R, the rezoning for Terra Cove has been postponed. And so the final is non-agenda items for the public. I take it there are none. So what about us, a report from the staff?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, our next regularly scheduled meeting is scheduled to be January 2nd. However, due to the proximity to a major holiday, New Year's, we're recommending that we hold a special meeting on January 9th. So we just want to make sure that everybody on the Commission was okay with that date being changed.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, so there's no meeting on the 2nd, and we move to the 9th?
That's correct.
Okay, fine, thank you.
It'll be a special meeting on January 9th. So we just want to make sure everybody's okay with that.
And then will there be a meeting the following week?
As of right now, we don't have any cases tracking for that. It would be January 16th meeting.
Okay, let's keep it that way.
Very good. And that's the last item. I just want to let you know that since this is the last meeting of the end of the year, I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday season and a very happy new year as well.
Thank you.
Go Devils, that's right.
Okay, just 1 second. Oh, yes. Chris, did you have a comment?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to apologize for my tardiness. I was coming from actually a P&Z meeting in Glendale, so I apologize there. And right.
That's all right. Just don't let it happen again.
Right. And I just also wanted to mention, too, starting off with the holiday season, we do have the Old Town Peoria Festival, I guess tomorrow, Friday. So hopefully we'll see you there.
Great, thank you. Any reports from the Planning and Zoning Commission? Then I'll close the meeting. Thank you.